of struggle, but the success unmatched. The political world is still very much a man's world. Even when a woman joins it, she has to struggle to make a place for herself and face a lot of opposition. So Vijay Lakshmi Pandit holding so many different positions before and after independence is an achievement for women over time. Not only was the first woman to hold political office in pre-independence India, she was also the first woman to become the president of the United Nations General Assembly. She was the face of the newly independent India, representing the country in 3 different countries. She was a firm believer in India's independence and openly denounced colonialism and imperialism. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was born on 18 August 1900 in Allahabad. She was the daughter of Motilal Nehru and Swaraj Rani Tusu. Her interest in politics began at an early age and she attended her first political meeting at the age of 16. This political meeting was organized by her cousin Rameshwari Nehru to discuss protests against the treatment of Indian liberals in South Africa. The stand for colonialism can also be seen in her later work. In the early 30th centuries, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit began her official political career. She joined the All India Women's Conference, as did many women at the time, along with Rajkumari Amrit Kaur. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit inspired the AIWC to reconsider its belief that politics and welfare were mutually exclusive and contradictory. A resolution was passed by the AIWC that any work done for self-improvement, for economic emancipation under the British government would be a political problem. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit led the AIWC from 1941 to 1943. Provincial elections were held in 1973 in accordance with the Government of India Act 1935. During this time, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was elected as the Ministry of Local Self-Government and Health of the United Provinces, making her the first woman to be elected to a cabinet position in pre-independence India. During her tenure as minister, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit introduced a resolution condemning the 1935 Act, founding a new constituent assembly instead. In 1939, when the British voluntarily sent Indian troops to World War II without consulting the government, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit resigned from their post along with her other ministers. With the advent of the civil disobedience movement, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was arrested once in 1940 and second in 1942. After her husband's death in 1944, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was left with no money. At that time, a woman could not inherit her husband's money. Vijay Lakshmi had 3 daughters and no sons, so the money that was meant to be hers was given to her husband's brother. She was distressed by the situation she was suddenly left in, but she continued her career in politics, disdain for imperialism. After her husband's death, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit traveled to the United States. During her tour, she spoke about the problems of colonialism and the impact of imperialism on colonized countries. She emphasized the need for countries to be held accountable for human dignity, equality and rights. She strongly believed in equality and denounced the inherent racism that came with colonialism. During the San Francisco conference, she called the Indian delegates as being selected by the British to represent a colonized version of India rather than the real India. I wish to make it clear that the so-called Indian delegates attending the conference have no representative capacity, no sanction or no mandate from any responsibility group in India, and they are merely nominees of the British government. Whatever they say or vote her can have no binding effect on force on Indian people. After returning from the USA 1946, Vijayalakshmi Pandit returned to her political life. She was reinstated to the post of Minister of Social Self-Government and Health in the United Provinces, and then later that year, she was elected to the Constituent Assembly. While the men of the Constituent Assembly are known for their contribution, the women are not talked about as much. Out of the 299 members, 15 were women. Architects of the Constitution was that they ranged from lawyers to freedom fighters and politicians. Their experience as women ensured some degree of equality in the Constitution. Her speeches covered topics such as minority rights, reservation, women's reservation, religious education and school education. Vijayalakshmi Pandit continued to advocate for human rights and equality during her tenure in the Constituent Assembly and denounced the effect of imperialism on colonized countries. In her speech to the Constituent Assembly, Vijayalakshmi Pandit highlighted the difficulties of erasing the lasting imprint of imperialism even when countries have already gained independence. Imperialism dies hard, and even if it knows that its days are numbered, it continues to struggle for its existence. We have example of what is happening in Burma, Indonesia and Indochina, and we see that in these countries, despite the untiring efforts of the people to free themselves, the grip of imperialism is so strong that they are not able to shake it off easily. Vijayalakshmi Pandit advocates for the good for the whole, not sacrificing the good of the whole for the good of the few. Even if some minorities have a special interest to protect, she said, they should not forget that they are part of the whole, and if the larger interests are harmed, there is no question of real protection of the interest of any minority. After India became independent, Vijayalakshmi Pandit was appointed the Indian ambassador to the Soviet Union. At the time, she was also the Indian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. Opposition loved with her diplomatic role began with the Soviet Union and the United Kingdom, and in 1953 she was appointed President of the United Nations General Assembly, making her the first woman to hold this position. Her diplomatic assignment lasted for 15 years and took her to 3 different constituencies. Upon returning to India, Vijayalakshmi Pandit served as the governor of Maharashtra from 1962 to 1964. She also served as a minister from the Phalpur constituency from 1964 to 1968. She resigned from the Lok Sabha in 1968 because it was difficult for her to work under Indira Gandhi's administration. In 1990, served as the Indian representative to the United Nations Human Rights Commission. Vijayalakshmi Pandit has fought many battles for the women for India and broken many barriers. Being a woman in politics is difficult even today. She began her career when it was almost non-existent, although she acknowledged her privilege due to belonging to the Nehru family. She also knows that being a woman, she had to overcome many obstacles. While people constantly tried to remind her that she was a woman and an outsider, she did not let it get to her. When asked if she was conscious of being a woman in a position of power, she said, I have never been conscious of being different from anyone else because I have never been allowed to think like that. Of course, not for lack of time. She goes on to describe how people in parliament would come to her with a needle and thread if she needed them. That wasn't the kind of help I wanted. I wanted help with their brains. The attitude towards women in politics was seen all over the world. During the first meeting with Churchill, he told Vijayalakshmi Pandit, I have accepted you. It does not mean that my views about women have changed. I do not want you to put your views in the minds of women. This photo highlights the kind of struggle Peter Lakshmi Pandit had to face while she was accepted by the Prime Minister. She and other women of the time did not believe that women now had equal opportunities. She was an exception that the patriarchy would allow to exist. She was there not because she saw an opportunity and took advantage of it but because the men running the government allowed her to do so. As she said in an interview, many women today have done more than what they did in my